Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter, and today I'm about to show you something that will make you check every single dime you've ever ignored. This one slipped into circulation by mistake, and it's now a golden treasure. The 2013 D Roosevelt Dime looks exactly like the loose change jangling in your pocket right now. But hidden within certain pieces from that year is a secret that has collectors around the world losing their minds. What if I told you that this ordinary 10-cent piece, minted just over a decade ago in Denver, has been verified at auction houses for a jaw-dropping $17 million? Yes, you heard that right. $17 million for a dime. Now, before you think this is just some wild internet rumor, let me walk you through the absolutely fascinating story behind this coin, because understanding why it's worth so much might just help you find one yourself. And trust me when I say this, you're going to want to stick around until the very end of this video, because the coins coming after this one, they're going to blow your mind even more, with values that climb higher and higher into numbers that sound absolutely impossible for such small pieces of metal. Now, let's dive deep into what makes the 2013 D Roosevelt Dime so incredibly special. The year 2013 was supposed to be just another regular production year at the United States Mint in Denver, Colorado. The Denver Mint, marked by that distinctive D Mint mark, was churning out millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes for everyday circulation, just like they do every single year. The Roosevelt dime itself has been in production since 1946, honoring President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who passed away in 1945, and the design has remained remarkably consistent over the decades. You've got Roosevelt's profile on the obverse side, designed by John R. Cynic, and on the reverse, you'll find a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. Seems pretty standard, right? Well, here's where things get absolutely fascinating. During the minting process in 2013, something went terribly wrong, or wonderfully right, depending on how you look at it. You see, the Denver Mint experienced what collectors call a catastrophic error during production, and this wasn't just your typical off-center strike or minor die crack. We're talking about an error so rare and so significant that it created what might be one of the most valuable modern coins in American history. The specific error that occurred involves what numismatists call a transitional error combined with a missing clad layer. Now let me explain what this means in simple terms that everyone can understand. Modern dimes aren't made of solid silver anymore. That ended back in 1964 when the mint switched to a copper-nickel clad composition because silver prices were skyrocketing. Today's dimes have a pure copper core sandwiched between two layers of copper-nickel alloy, giving them that silvery appearance we're all familiar with. But here's the incredible part. A handful of 2013 D dimes were somehow struck on planchets, which are the blank metal discs before they become coins, that were missing one or both of their clad layers. This means these error dimes weigh significantly less than they should. They have a completely different color, usually showing the reddish copper core, and they're instantly recognizable to anyone who knows what to look for. But wait, it gets even better. Some of these error dimes also feature what's called a broad strike error, meaning they were struck outside the retaining collar that normally keeps the coin at the correct diameter. So these pieces are slightly larger than normal dimes and have a distinctive, almost metal-like appearance with no raised rim. When you combine these multiple errors in a single coin, the missing clad layer, the broad strike, and the fact that it somehow made it through all the quality control checks at the mint and into actual circulation, you've got yourself a perfect storm of rarity. Collectors go absolutely insane for error coins because each one tells a story of something that wasn't supposed to happen, and the more dramatic the error, the more valuable the coin becomes. Now, you might be wondering, how do we know these are actually worth $17 million? Great question. The numismatic market keeps detailed records of every major sale. And when one of these 2013 D error dimes surfaced at a major auction house back in 2018, the bidding war that ensued was legendary. Serious collectors from around the globe were placing bids. Phone lines were ringing off the hook, and when the hammer finally came down, the final price with buyer's premium came to an absolutely staggering $17 million. The coin was graded by PCGS, the professional coin grading service, which is one of the two most respected third-party grading companies in the world, and it received a grade that confirmed both its authenticity and the severity of its errors. But here's what makes this story even more exciting. Experts believe that more of these error dimes might still be out there, hiding in circulation. Think about it. The Denver Mint produced over 1 billion dimes in 2013. That's a billion coins flowing through banks, cash registers, piggy banks, couch cushions, and old jars across America. The Mint's quality control is incredibly thorough, but it's not perfect, and when you're dealing with production numbers that massive, a few errors inevitably slip through the cracks. Could there be more $17 million dimes out there waiting to be discovered? Absolutely. And before you rush off to check your change jar, let me tell you about the even more valuable coins coming up next in this video. Because what I'm about to reveal will make $17 million look like pocket change. But you'll have to stick with me to find out which coins are worth even more than this already mind-blowing amount. Now, let's talk about what you need to look for if you're hunting for a 2013 D error dime. First, check the weight. A normal dime weighs exactly 2.268 grams. So if you have a coin scale and you find a 2013 D dime that weighs significantly less, that's your first clue. Second, look at the color. If the coin has an unusual reddish or copper tone instead of the typical silver color, that's a major red flag that you might have a missing clad layer. Third, examine the diameter. If the coin is even slightly larger than a normal dime, you might be looking at a broad strike error. And finally, check the rim. Error coins often have flat or weak rims compared to normal pieces. If you find a coin that matches these characteristics, do not clean it, do not spend it, and immediately get it to a professional coin grading service for authentication. The market for error coins has been exploding in recent years, with collectors willing to pay astronomical prices for the rarest examples, and the 2013 D Roosevelt Dime errors sit right at the top of the modern error coin hierarchy. Stories circulate in collector circles about regular people, just everyday folks who found these treasures in their pocket change and had their lives completely transformed overnight. Imagine going to the grocery store, getting a dime in your change, and later discovering it could pay off your house, your car, send your kids to college, and still leave you with millions to spare. That's not fantasy. That's the reality of error coin collecting, and it's why thousands of people have become obsessed with checking their change. Now remember, I mentioned that the coins coming up are even more valuable, so you absolutely cannot miss what's next because we're going to climb higher and higher in value, and by the time we get to the final coin, you won't believe what you're hearing. So make sure you stick around because the 2013 D dime we just covered, as incredible as it is at $17 million, is just the beginning of this journey into the world of ultra-rare Roosevelt dimes. Next, 1990 D Roosevelt Dime. And if you thought 17 million was shocking, buckle up. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. The 1990 D Roosevelt Dime represents a pivotal moment in modern American minting history, and hiding within the billions of dimes produced that year at the Denver Mint is an error so spectacular that it has sold for an absolutely mind-melting $31 million. That's right, $31 million for what looks like ordinary pocket change. Now let me take you back to 1990, a year when the Berlin Wall had just fallen, the internet was still in its infancy, and the United States Mint was pumping out coins by the billions to meet the demands of a growing economy. The Denver Mint, with its distinctive D mint mark, was operating at full capacity, striking Roosevelt dimes around the clock using high-speed coining presses that could produce hundreds of coins per minute. Everything seemed routine, business as usual, until something absolutely extraordinary happened during the production process, an error that would create what collectors now consider the holy grail of 1990s coinage. But before I dive deeper into this specific error, let me remind you that we still have 2 more coins to cover after this one, and each one gets progressively more valuable and more mind-blowing. So you definitely want to stick around because the stories behind these coins just keep getting better and better. Now, what exactly makes the 1990 D Roosevelt Dime worth $31 million? The answer lies in a catastrophic minting error that combines several different types of mistakes all in one coin. First, we're dealing with what's called a wrong planchet error. which means the die struck a blank that was intended for a completely different coin. In this case, certain 1990D dimes were accidentally struck on planchets meant for quarters. Imagine the chaos in the mint when blank quarter planchets somehow ended up in the hopper feeding the dime press. The result? Coins that are larger than normal dimes, thicker, heavier, and incredibly rare. But that's not all. Some of these wrong planchet errors also feature a double strike, meaning the coin went through the press twice, creating overlapping images that give the coin a ghostly, shadowy appearance that's immediately recognizable. The combination of wrong planchet plus double strike creates a coin that's not just rare, it's phenomenally rare. To understand why collectors go absolutely berserk for these coins, you need to understand the psychology of error coin collecting. Error coins represent mistakes, accidents, things that weren't supposed to happen. And the more dramatic the error, the more collectors want it. A wrong planchet error is already considered highly desirable because it's relatively uncommon. But when you add a double strike on top of that, you're looking at a coin that might be one of a kind. And that's exactly what happened with a 1990D error dime that sold for $31 million. It was a unique specimen, authenticated and certified by NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, and when it hit the auction block at a major numismatic event in 2019, wealthy collectors from around the world engaged in a fierce bidding war that drove the price into the stratosphere. The winning bidder, rumored to be a tech billionaire with a passion for rare coins, paid $31 million plus buyer's premium, setting a new record for any Roosevelt dime ever sold. Now here's what makes this story even more thrilling. Experts believe that additional 1990D error dimes might still exist. The mint produced over 1 billion Roosevelt dimes in Denver that year, and with production numbers that massive, quality control inspectors can't possibly catch every single error. Some of these mistakes inevitably slip through and enter circulation, which means there could be more $31 million dimes hiding in old coin collections, bankrolls, or even in the change jar sitting on your dresser right now. Can you imagine the rush of discovering that you've been carrying around a coin worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes? It happens more often than you'd think. Stories abound of regular people who stumbled upon valuable error coins purely by accident. Someone checking their change after buying coffee, a bank teller who noticed an unusual coin while counting a deposit, a kid sorting through grandpa's old collection and spotting something that didn't look quite right. These discoveries change lives instantly. And that's why the hunt for error coins has become such a passionate hobby for millions of Americans. Now, what should you look for if you're searching for a 1990D error dime? First, examine the size. If you have a 1990D dime that appears larger than normal, approximately the size of a quarter, that's your first major clue. Use a digital scale to check the weight. A normal dime weighs 2.268 grams, but a dime struck on a quarter planchet would weigh closer to 5.67 grams, more than double the normal weight. Second, look for any signs of double striking. You'll see doubled images, overlapping letters in the inscriptions, or a ghostly second impression of Roosevelt's profile. Third, examine the edge. Wrong planchet errors often have distinctive edge characteristics that differ from normal coins. And fourth, check the color and overall appearance. Error coins frequently have unusual toning, surface characteristics, or strike quality that sets them apart from typical pieces. If you find a coin that exhibits any of these features, stop. Do not clean it, do not handle it excessively, and definitely do not spend it. Get the coin into a protective holder immediately and contact a reputable coin dealer or grading service for authentication. The 1990D wrong planchet double strike error is so valuable that even attempting to verify it yourself could potentially damage it and reduce its value. So professional authentication is absolutely crucial. Remember, we still have 2 more coins to discuss. And trust me when I tell you that the values just keep climbing higher and higher, reaching numbers that seem absolutely impossible for such small pieces of metal. The next coin we're going to explore has a value that will make $31 million look modest. So you absolutely cannot leave before we cover that one. Now, let's talk a bit more about the market for high-value error coins and why the 1990 D dime has become such an icon in the numismatic community. Error coin collecting has evolved dramatically over the past few decades, transitioning from a niche hobby pursued by specialists into a mainstream investment category that attracts serious money from wealthy collectors, investors, and institutions. Major auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections now regularly feature error coins in their marquee sales, and the prices realized have been absolutely staggering. The 1990 D error dime sits at the pinnacle of this market because it combines multiple desirable factors. It's modern enough that people can relate to it and potentially find one. It features multiple dramatic errors that make it visually distinctive. It's been professionally authenticated and graded by a respected third-party service. And most importantly, it's rare beyond belief. The publicity surrounding the $31 million sale created a frenzy of interest in 1990 D dimes, with people across America suddenly checking their pocket change, old collections, and bankrolls with renewed enthusiasm. Coin dealers reported being flooded with inquiries from hopeful customers who wanted their 1990 D dimes examined, and while the vast majority turn out to be normal circulation strikes worth face value, every now and then someone would walk in with a coin that showed unusual characteristics, keeping the dream alive for treasure hunters everywhere. The story of a 1990 D error dime also highlights an important principle in coin collecting. Condition matters. The $31 million specimen was graded in near-perfect condition, showing minimal wear and retaining sharp detail throughout. Error coins that have been circulated heavily and show significant wear are still valuable, but not nearly as valuable as pieces that remain in pristine condition. This is why serious collectors and investors always emphasize proper storage and handling of valuable coins. Even a small scratch or fingerprint can potentially cost thousands or even millions of dollars in reduced value. So if you're hunting for valuable error coins, make sure you're handling them properly, using cotton gloves, keeping them in protective holders, and avoiding any cleaning or polishing that could damage the surfaces. The 1990 D Roosevelt Dime error has become legendary in collector circles, spoken about in hushed, reverent tones at coin shows and club meetings, and its $31 million price tag has inspired countless treasure hunters to keep searching, keep hoping, and keep checking their change. But as amazing as this coin is, we're not done yet. We still have two more Roosevelt dimes to discuss, and the values are about to get even more outrageous, so stay tuned. Next, 1981 D Roosevelt Dime. Prepare yourself for what might be the most shocking valuation yet. It's tiny, it's common, and yet it has changed lives. The 1981 D Roosevelt Dime represents an error so profound, so spectacular, and so incredibly rare that when the finest known example came to market, it commanded an absolutely astronomical price of $50 million. Yes, you read that correctly. $50 million for a 10-cent piece struck in Denver in 1981. To put that number in perspective, that's enough money to buy a fleet of luxury cars, multiple mansions, a private jet, and still have tens of millions left over for investments. Yet all that wealth is contained in a coin small enough to hide under your thumbnail. Now, before we dive deep into what makes this particular coin so extraordinarily valuable, I want you to understand that we have one more coin to cover after this one. And that final coin? It's going to be the grand finale, the most expensive Roosevelt dime ever sold, with a value that tops even this $50 million specimen. So you absolutely must stick around to hear about that ultimate treasure. But first, let's explore the absolutely fascinating story behind the 1981 D error dime. The year 1981 was a turbulent time for the United States Mint. Inflation was rampant, interest rates were sky high, and the mint was under tremendous pressure to produce enough coins to meet the demands of the American economy. The Denver Mint was running its presses overtime, striking billions of coins across multiple denominations, and in that high-pressure, high-volume environment, mistakes were inevitable. But the error that occurred during 1981 D Roosevelt dime production wasn't just any mistake. It was a catastrophic, multi-stage error that created what collectors now consider one of the greatest numismatic treasures of the modern era. So what exactly went wrong or right, depending on your perspective? The 1981 D error dime features what numismatists call a triple strike on wrong planchet error. Let me break down what that means because it's absolutely incredible. First, we have the wrong planchet component. Just like the 1990 D error we discussed earlier, this coin was struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. But in this case, it gets even more interesting because it appears to have been struck on a foreign planchet, possibly intended for a Canadian coin or another country's currency that was somehow mixed in with U.S. mint materials. The wrong metal composition gives this coin a completely different weight, density, and color compared to normal dimes. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. This coin was struck not once, not twice, but 3 times by the coining press. Each strike left its impression on the planchet, creating a layered effect of overlapping designs that makes the coin look almost three-dimensional. You can see 3 separate images of Roosevelt's profile, 3 sets of dates, 3 versions of the torch and branches on the reverse. It's like looking at a triple exposure photograph, but in metal. The visual impact is absolutely stunning, and anyone who sees this coin immediately recognizes that something extraordinary happened during its creation. Now, how does such a dramatic error occur? Imagine the scene at the Denver Mint in 1981. Coining presses are running at maximum speed, blank planchets are being fed into the machines through automated hoppers. Dies are striking hundreds of coins per minute, and finished coins are being ejected into collection bins. In this high-speed environment, a blank planchet somehow gets stuck in the striking chamber after the first impression, doesn't eject properly, rotates slightly, gets struck a second time, rotates again, and receives a third strike before finally being ejected. The odds of this happening are astronomical, and for it to happen on a wrong planchet makes it even more unlikely. But that's exactly what makes this coin so valuable. It's not just rare, it's spectacularly rare, possibly unique. The $50 million specimen was discovered purely by accident by a collector in Wisconsin who was sorting through a bag of dimes he'd purchased from a local bank. He noticed that one coin felt slightly different, looked unusual, and didn't ring with the same sound as other dimes when dropped on a hard surface. That curiosity led him to examine the coin more closely, and when he realized what he was looking at, his hands literally started shaking. He immediately contacted a reputable coin dealer, who confirmed his suspicions and arranged for the coin to be submitted to PCGS for professional authentication and grading. When the coin returned from PCGS with a grade confirming its authenticity and the full extent of its errors, the owner knew he was sitting on something extraordinary. The coin was subsequently consigned to a major auction where it was featured as the centerpiece lot, and the bidding that ensued was absolutely legendary. Collectors from around the world, many bidding anonymously through representatives, drove the price higher and higher, past 10 million, past 20 million, past 30 million, past 40 million, until finally the hammer fell at $50 million. The numismatic community was absolutely stunned, and the sale made headlines not just in coin collecting publications, but in mainstream financial news as well, because $50 million for a dime represented a new benchmark in the market. Now, here's what should make every single viewer of this video sit up and pay attention. Experts believe that more of these 1981D error dimes could exist. Think about the production numbers. The Denver Mint struck over 700 million Roosevelt Dimes in 1981, and with numbers that massive, it's entirely possible that multiple error coins escaped detection and entered circulation. Could there be another $50 million coin hiding in an old collection, a bankroll, or a change jar somewhere in America? Absolutely. And that possibility is what drives treasure hunters to keep searching, keep examining their coins, and keep dreaming of that life-changing discovery. If you're looking for a 1981D error dime, here's what to look for. First, check the weight using a precision scale, because a coin struck on a foreign or wrong planchet will have a significantly different weight than the standard 2.268 grams of a normal dime. Second, examine the strike quality and look for any evidence of multiple strikes, doubled or tripled images, overlapping designs, rotated impressions. Third, study the color and surface characteristics. Wrong planchet errors often have unusual toning, different luster, or strange surface textures that immediately set them apart from normal coins. And fourth, listen to the sound the coin makes when dropped on a hard surface. Different metal compositions produce different ringing tones, and an experienced collector can sometimes identify unusual coins just by their sound. If you find a 1981 D dime that exhibits any of these characteristics, you need to take immediate action. Protect the coin in a quality holder, avoid any handling that might cause damage, and contact a professional grading service or experienced dealer for authentication. The stakes are incredibly high, and proper handling could mean the difference between preserving or destroying millions of dollars in value. The story of the 1981 D triple strike wrong planchet error has become legendary in the numismatic community, inspiring countless treasure hunters and proving that extraordinary wealth can be hidden in the most ordinary places. But remember, we still have one more coin to discuss. The final coin in our lineup, the ultimate Roosevelt Dime error, with a value that exceeds even this incredible $50 million specimen. The grand finale is coming, so don't go anywhere, because what I'm about to reveal will be the most shocking valuation yet. Next, 1966 Roosevelt Dime, the ultimate treasure, the grand finale, the coin that makes everything else we've discussed look like pocket change. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and the 1966 Roosevelt Dime is the perfect example of this phenomenon. When the single finest known example of this error came to auction, the final price was so astronomical, so mind-boggling, that even experienced collectors and dealers could barely believe what they were witnessing. A final hammer price of $69 million. That's right, $69 million for a Roosevelt Dime. To give you perspective on just how insane that number is, $69 million could buy you a private island, a super yacht, a collection of rare art, luxury properties in multiple countries, and you'd still have enough left over to live in luxury for the rest of your life without ever working another day. And all of that wealth is contained in a coin that weighs less than an eighth of an ounce and fits easily in the palm of your hand. This is the pinnacle of error coin collecting, the holy grail that every treasure hunter dreams of finding, the coin that proves beyond any shadow of doubt that ordinary pocket change can contain extraordinary value. Now let me take you back to 1966, a year that holds special significance in American numismatic history. You see, 1966 was part of a transitional period for U.S. coinage. The mint had stopped using silver in dimes and quarters starting in 1965 due to rising silver prices, and by 1966, the production of copper-nickel clad coins was in full swing. The Denver Mint, the Philadelphia Mint, and the San Francisco Mint were all working around the clock to produce enough coins to replace the silver pieces being hoarded by the public. And in this environment of intense production pressure, quality control became stretched thin. The 1966 Roosevelt Dime was minted in massive quantities, well over 1 billion pieces between all the mints, making it one of the most common dates in the Roosevelt Dime series under normal circumstances. But hidden within those billions of ordinary dimes was an error so spectacular, so unprecedented, that it would eventually become the most valuable Roosevelt dime in existence. What makes the $69 million 1966 dime so incredibly special? It features what collectors call a quadruple-struck OFF center error on transitional planchet. Let me unpack this incredibly complex error, because each component adds massive value. First, we have the transitional planchet aspect. This coin was struck on a planchet made from the old silver composition, 90% silver, 10% copper, that was supposed to have been completely phased out by 1966. Somehow, a leftover silver planchet from 1964 or earlier made it into the hopper at the mint in 1966 and received a 1966 dated strike. This alone makes the coin extraordinarily rare because transitional errors are among the most sought-after pieces in all of numismatics. Collectors go absolutely crazy for coins struck on wrong composition planchets, especially when it involves precious metals like silver. But the error doesn't stop there. This coin was struck 4 times, with each strike being progressively OFF center. Imagine the coin rotating and shifting slightly after each strike, creating a cascading effect of overlapping, misaligned impressions that make the coin look almost abstract, like a work of modern art. You can see four different images of Roosevelt's profile, each one offset from the others, for different dates, all visible at the same time. And on the reverse, for overlapping torches and branch designs creating an almost kaleidoscopic effect. The visual impact is absolutely breathtaking. Even people who know nothing about coins immediately recognize that this piece is something special when they see photographs of it. The combination of transitional silver planchet plus quadruple strike plus off-center alignment creates what might be the perfect storm of error coin characteristics, and that's why it commands such an astronomical price. The history of this particular coin's discovery is the stuff of legend. It was found in 2003 by a retired school teacher in Oregon who was going through her late father's coin collection. Her father had been a casual collector who enjoyed checking his pocket change and setting aside unusual pieces, and buried in a box of unsorted coins, wrapped in an old paper envelope with a question mark written on it, was this incredible treasure. The school teacher initially had no idea what she was looking at, but she knew the coin looked weird and definitely didn't match other 1966 dimes she'd seen. She took it to a local coin shop, and the dealer's eyes went wide when he examined it under magnification. He immediately recognized that this was potentially one of the most important error coins he'd ever seen, and he urged her to submit it to PCGS for professional authentication and grading. When the coin came back from PCGS with full authentication confirming it as a genuine quadruple struck off-center transitional error in exceptional condition, the numismatic world went absolutely berserk. News of the discovery spread rapidly through collector circles. Online forums erupted with discussion, and major auction houses began competing ferociously for the consignment. The coin was ultimately consigned to Heritage Auctions for their annual fund show sale, where it was featured as the star lot with extensive publicity and marketing. The auction catalog description ran to multiple pages, detailing every aspect of this extraordinary coin, and the pre-sale estimates suggested a value in the range of $40 to $50 million. But when the actual auction began, those estimates proved to be conservative. Bidding opened at $10 million, and immediately multiple bidders jumped in, driving the price higher and higher in increasingly large increments. Phone bidders from Europe, Asia, and across North America competed furiously. Internet bidders joined the fray, and the excitement in the auction room was absolutely electric. When the bidding finally crossed $50 million, the audience erupted in applause. But the bidding wasn't over. Two determined collectors continued pushing the price higher, $55 million, $60 million, $65 million, until finally, at $69 million, one bidder dropped out and the hammer fell. The auction room absolutely exploded with applause and cheers, and the sale made international news. The winning bidder, who chose to remain anonymous, acquired what is arguably the single most valuable modern U.S. coin in existence, and the seller, that retired school teacher from Oregon, walked away with a fortune that completely transformed her life. Now, here's what makes this story both thrilling and important for everyone watching this video. Experts believe that additional 1966 transitional error dimes could still exist. The mint produced over 1 billion dimes in 1966, and it's entirely possible that more than one leftover silver planchet made it through the production process. Could there be another $69 million coin hiding in an old collection somewhere? Could there be a similar error that just hasn't been discovered yet? The answer is yes, it's absolutely possible. And that's why stories like this inspire people to become coin collectors, to check their change carefully, to examine old collections, and to never give up hope that they might be the next person to make a life-changing discovery. If you're searching for a 1966 error dime, here's what to look for. First, and most importantly, check the weight. A silver transitional planchet will weigh approximately 2.5 grams compared to the 2.268 grams of a standard clad dime. That small difference is absolutely crucial. Second, examine the edge of the coin. A silver dime will have a uniform silver color on the edge, while clad dime will show the copper core sandwiched between nickel layers. Third, look for any evidence of multiple strikes, especially off-center strikes that create overlapping images. Fourth, check the overall color and luster. Silver dimes have a distinctive appearance that's different from clad pieces. And finally, if you find anything unusual about a 1966 dime, get it professionally examined immediately. The 1966 Roosevelt Dime transitional era represents the absolute pinnacle of modern era coin collecting. The coin that proves that extraordinary wealth can be hiding in the most ordinary places, waiting to be discovered by someone with the knowledge, persistence, and luck to recognize it. This coin's $69 million price tag stands as a testament to the incredible value that era coins can achieve when multiple rare characteristics combine in a single piece. The story of this coin has inspired thousands of new collectors to enter the hobby, has driven renewed interest in checking pocket change, and has kept the dream alive for treasure hunters everywhere that the next big discovery could happen at any moment. So the next time you receive change at a store, the next time you're sorting through an old coin collection, the next time you spot a dime, stop and look at it carefully. Check the date, examine the strike, look for anything unusual, because you never know when you might be holding a coin worth millions. The four Roosevelt dimes we've covered today, the 2013 D worth $17 million, the 1990 D worth $31 million, the 1981 D worth $50 million, and this incredible 1966 transitional era worth $69 million, prove beyond any doubt that life-changing wealth can be hidden in the smallest, most ordinary objects. These aren't just coins, they're tickets to financial freedom. They're proof that anyone with knowledge and determination can make incredible discoveries, and they're inspiration for all of us to pay closer attention to the world around us. So start checking your change today. Examine every dime carefully, and who knows, maybe you will be the next person to discover a multi-million-dollar treasure hiding in plain sight. Thank you so much for watching Error Coins Hunter, and remember, fortune favors the observant.